Hi, I'm Bart Hanson. I'm the owner and operator of CrushLivePoker.com. The following hand comes from our call-in show that we record at 4:45 p.m. Pacific Time every Monday. If you want to call in your hand, check out the phone number in the description.
This is a 5-10 no limit hand.
Okay.
And Heroes in the big blind. Villain 1 is under the gun. He's a old man coffee, kind of a limp call guy, but this hand he raises to 40.
Okay, where is this played out of? Just curious.
This is at Twin River Casino in Rhode Island.
Have you been to Springfield MGM yet?
It's the only place I haven't been to yet.
Oh, okay. I was just interested
Yeah.
about hearing about that place that just opened. So, UTG opens to 40. Stack sizes?
Heroes effective stack with 1300.
Okay.
And it folds to laggy tournament guy in MP1-ish, so still pretty early, and he calls.
Okay.
Folds back around to Hero on the big blind with jacks. So I decided to just call. Old man coffee under the gun range seems pretty tight, so...
I mean, at 130 big blinds, it's probably pretty close. And again, this is one of these ones where when you have dead money in between, this becomes more of a 3-bet than just heads up. Like with this dynamic heads up, you would call a lot more than in this configuration. But I understand what you're saying. Like if this guy's super duper tight, then you don't always have to 3-bet jacks. I'm just saying like in this configuration. So you call.
Yeah, and the other thing was the guy who's in MP1 who's a laggy guy. I figure if UTG calls, he's going to call too, and I'm out of a position of 2 players.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the flop comes 5-5-6 rainbow.
Okay.
And I check. UTG bets 50, and the laggy tournament guy makes it 135.
Well, you've got a pure call here. I mean, I'm sure you're telling me the history of MP1 for a real good reason, but you freeze everything when you call. And then, so you check OMC bets, OMC-ish, we'll call him, right? Or tightish bets 50, right?
Yep.
And MP1, who you're saying is sort of this laggy guy, makes it 135, not repping much, right? And maybe he just thinks that like the guy missed, right? And he's tournament player trying to take it down. You definitely freeze the action with the call. And then the thing is that, you know, if the guy overcalls in between, you can there's a very good chance that you're beat. I mean, there's a possibility that you could actually turn your hand into a bluff sometimes if the original C-better actually overcalls here. But, I mean, there are some guys that actually that would fold an overpair here if he's truly tight post-flop. You know what I mean? Bet, raise, and then you call from the big blind when you can have plenty of fives. So I feel like you've just got a pure call here. I'm assuming you called?
Yeah, I actually did something kind of funny, and I made it 315.
Okay.
Because I feel like the guy under the gun, if he's as tight as I think he is, he really can't call. And, I mean, it looks like I could have a 5 here, like a very large percentage of the time.
Yeah.
And the laggy tournament guy is a pro, so I feel like he realizes I have a lot of 5 and might fold if he raised with some kind of like gutter with a backdoor flush or an open ender or something funny, thinking that UTG has an overpair ace king.
What's your name?
Jim.
Tim?
Jim.
Have you ever heard of a combo bet before?
No.
So a combo bet, I don't know. This is again one of these ones where the term, I don't know if somebody else. There's always this big debate, like who invented the term OMC? Stands for Old Man Coffee. Some people say that it was Lyman. I don't know the answer. Combo bet. Tuckman and I used it back in 2005. I've heard it used in other places. I don't know who came up with it. There's a possibility I might have invented it. I don't know. But when we talk about combo bet, it means when you bet or take an aggressive action that will get a better hand to fold and a worse hand to call from a third player in the form of a draw. So this is what this looks like to me, and I didn't know if you were consciously doing this. Did you think that if you were to check raise 3-bet here that you could get the UTGC better off of a better hand?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you are making a combo bet.
I thought that if I called and he calls behind, like he's getting a good price because the raise is pretty small on my call. He could potentially float me with like ace king. If the board comes, you know, an ace or king on the turn, I have to basically check fold. Whereas I could definitely get him to fold that hand. And if he has aces or kings, I think he would still fold.
I think that would be a pretty poor call with ace king. As an overcall, if it
Yeah.
went 51-35 and you called, I mean, I don't care what. I mean, he would just be begging that one guy's bluffing and that you're calling with. It's just that would become a fold. I don't think the pot odds really have all that much, but I think it's an interesting line though if you think that you can get that guy off. The only issue is that the laggy tournament guy, like, are you really fast playing a five like that way against a bet and a call? Might be one of his idea. His thinking is like, this guy's never going to have a five here. You know what I mean? But
Right.
it's an interesting line, though. It's just you're going to be sort of in an
Yeah.
awkward. So let me ask you this question. So you check raised at 315. Did the guy in between fold?
So the guy in between actually calls the 135 and then doesn't realize that I make it 315 and then just snap calls it. Doesn't be like, oh, I didn't see that or whatever. He's like, oh, 315 call.
Well, let me ask you this question just as an aside. If he had folded, right, and now the laggy guy shoved all in, would you call off?
Yeah, it's kind of and because now I'm actually in a tough spot because I actually do have a lot of fives, and it's like, do I really need to defend jacks? You know?
Well, you get into like a little chicken and the egg type of scenario. You know what I mean? Like this guy doesn't think that you got a five. But anyway, so what you're saying, what happens is that the pre-flop raiser who c-bet sort of small thinks that it's only 135. That's what you're saying, right? But then puts in the 315 anyway. So kind of an accidental call.
Right.
Okay. And then what happens with the laggy guy behind?
The laggy guy folded before the other guy realized it was 315. He was like, that's 315 and already had his cards in the muck.
Okay, so the laggy guy was full of shit, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Go to the turn.
So at this point, I feel like he has a big hand. And the turn is actually an ace.
Okay.
So I just felt like I really had to give up on this one because when he calls, I feel like he's going to have mostly aces. You know, when he doesn't even question, that's 315, like, I feel like he's going to have a lot of aces.
I don't know. I tend to disagree. So here's the thing. Here's my take on this. So if you look at what he was going to call with, right? Like you said, he was going to call the 135. Why do you? So if he has queens, kings, and aces here, okay,
right,
and now the turn's an ace, is it less likely or more likely that he's got aces?
Well, it's less likely that he has aces for sure, yeah.
So, I mean, he was going to call anyways to that bet. Why wouldn't he do it with queens, kings, and aces? My gut reaction here is to check the turn and sort of gauge him and see, if he checks back quickly without thought, which skews him not towards having pocket aces. And then you could bluff the river. With this turn card, because he has more overpairs here, in the form of queens and kings than aces, you could sort of go for a delayed barrel at the end. So you go check, check, quick. And now the river, who knows, maybe even the river's going to bring in some sort of straight that's even more scary for the guy. As long as the river isn't like a king or a queen, you could just blast the river. You know what I mean? Like, that's my gut reaction. It sounds to me like you checked.
So I did check, and he bets like 210. I just let it go. Wow. Yeah, I just let it go here. I don't know if you think I should call and evaluate the river or...
No, this sounds like if he's betting 210 here, it sort of sounds like, I don't know if a guy's going to bet kings or queens here for 210. Why? You mean for like protection? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like a 7-8 kind of hand or something like that.
Once he bets, I would probably give it up. Did you end up seeing what he had?
Well, it was kind of interesting because I mucked and there was a guy at the table who was like, oh, what'd you have? You made it 315 on the flop, and then he check fold, and I was like, I had a pair. And then the other guy said, oh, I had a pair. It was probably bigger than yours. So I was like, yeah, okay, like, I don't think you're going to bet kings or queens, so I just assumed that he ran an aces full, but...
I mean, it makes sense. I just don't know how often queens and kings are going to bet there on the turn. Like, if I put myself in that guy's spot and I do that, especially if what you had said, this is a nice call, especially if what you were saying is accurate in the fact that he didn't know, right, that you had check raise 3-bet. Like, that's, you're saying that's, you're pretty certain of that, right? Like he called the
Oh, yeah,
135.
100%. Yeah.
So if he's got jacks, tens, you know what I mean? Jacks, tens, queens,
Right.
kings, he accidentally calls the 315. Now the turn's an ace. Is he going to bet any of those hands on the turn? He probably he would be scared shitless because like he might have accidentally called that amount anyways, right? Because he didn't see the
Right.
check raise
Yeah.
3-bet on the flop, right?
Right.
This looks a lot like aces full. Obviously,
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but once he starts putting in more money, then I would just give up. I would just toss it then. Now,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
So.
Thanks, Bart.
Hey guys, if you like what you've seen here, please click on the subscribe button and you'll get notified every time we put up a new video. And if you want to check out crushlivepoker.com for the first month free, use the code YTA200. Click on the link right there.